Well, hello again. Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. To say that out loud is kind of hard, but it's here. From our home in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm Gary Williams. Welcome in on this Monday morning. It is January 6th. And who are we and what can you count on from us? Well, hopefully a program that's going to cover the industry of golf, because we are not going to be a professional golf recap show. This is about the game of golf, and we can't do this without the support of a lot of people, primarily the people who help us advance what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and that means sponsorship. And let me start by just saying thank you to the people who are going to be alongside us as we make this journey with you in 2025. Sentry. Sentry, as you saw, was the title sponsor of the event that just concluded on the PGA Tour, but they do so much more in the game of golf. Their partnership with the United States Golf Association. They're a trustee of the First Tee. And for them to align with us means a great deal. And beyond them, 3 North Carolina-based companies which mean the world to us, starting with Pinehurst, which is the cradle of American golf. And they are just a couple hours down the road from us, as is Golf Pride. And Golf Pride is a company that has been with us from the absolute beginning. So we thank them as well. And then, of course, Peter Millar. My relationship with Peter Millar began when I started Morning Drive back in January of 2011. So thank you to all of them. And by the way, it's not just going to be me here in this studio, and this is our studio. And one thing you're going to find out about 5 Clubs is that we want this show to be personal for you. The things in this studio are personal to all of us. The artwork, you can see that beautiful painting over my shoulder from Dave Baisden. Wendy Billis, the better half of the Billis family, also contributing her great artwork. The photography of Larry Lambrecht, and the places that mean the most to me. Yes, the windmill at National Golf Links and the clubhouse at Shinnecock Hills. And it's not about the fact that I've been to those places. It's about the time spent. Because the motto here on 5 Clubs is that it is the time and not the score. So what will we do on a day-to-day basis? We're going to be talking about the industry of golf. And it's not just going to be me. As you know, since we started this program, it has been an aggregate. It has been a team. So myself, I mentioned the Billis family. Jay will contribute. Obviously, he's immersed in college basketball. Gil Hance, he travels the world designing some of the best golf courses that we certainly played today. He will be a part of the program. Emma Carpenter, who started with us as an undergrad at the University of Minnesota playing collegiate golf, she will also be a part of this program, as will Taylor Zarzer, who is somebody who you hear on SiriusXM. And by the way, if you got to leave your home and you get in the car, we're exceptionally proud of the fact that we are being simulcast on the PGA Tour Radio Network. My relationship with SiriusXM goes back to when I was actually the first morning host on Mad Dog Radio, starting at the beginning of 2009. And then finally, Johnson Wagner and Brendan DeYoung. And as everybody knows, Johnson has certainly experienced a meteoric rise on the media side, but he loves the game of golf, as does Brendan DeYoung. They will be a part of this program on a regular basis, contributing their perspective on the game of golf. And when I say the game of golf, that's the other part of this. Beyond talking about the best players in the world, and Hideki Matsuyama carved out a new area code, shooting 257 at the Sentry. As a matter of fact, 257 is going to be an area code in the greater Vancouver area starting in May. I don't know why I looked that up, but I did. Well, we will talk about that, but this is going to be not only about the best players in the world, it's about you. Because if you're investing right now into either watching or listening to 5 Clubs, it means you're invested in golf. And you know what you're investing? The most precious commodity that you have, which is time. And so we are going to try to, and hopefully it won't take long, to try to satisfy all the things that matter to you when it comes to the game of golf, whether it be the administration of the game. And there's so many issues going on in the game of golf, well beyond just the professional game and the resolution between the PGA Tour and Live Golf. We will talk to people who design golf courses, because we are right now in a golden age of people creating great canvases around the world. So we will talk to those people beyond not only our contributor Gil Hance, but all of the wonderful people designing golf. The business of golf, equipment, all of those things are going to be satisfied, plus the history of the game of golf. Jaime Diaz, who's been certainly a longtime contributor, not only Golf Digest, but Golf Channel as well, he will be here. there is a famous bunker at the old course at St. Andrews called the Principal's Nose. Well, with Jaime, it's the Principal Knows. He will be with us on a regular basis as well. And here's the other thing, and let me just say this because, like I said, all the stuff in here is personal to us. And by the way, that music you heard in the open, that was written, scored, and performed by my cousin, Jim Dooley, who is an award-winning composer out in California, who's been associated with some of the great motion pictures over the last 25 years, for him to lend his time to give the music. And that music, you may say, you know what, that sounds a little nostalgic. We hope so, because we'd like to believe when you hear that music that you're walking into a community of people talking about the game of golf. And that's the other part of this, is that over the last 3.5 years, I have tried to understand a landscape beyond linear television, as they call it, which is where we are right now on Golf Channel. And that is understanding the digital space. And we have seen over the last decade the proliferation of people talking about the game of golf and creating content. And I have felt at times like the offensive coordinator or the Iowa football team gain a yard, lose 9, and punt. Let me tell you something. Being here right now is the greatest first down that we have ever gotten. And let me just say this. I love when that light goes on. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that it would come on again with respect to being here and being a part of the greater team that is the network of record in the game of golf, and that is Golf Channel. They left the light on for me, and I am forever indebted. And we hope, starting today, that we will commit ourselves to giving you a program that you can count on to talk about the game of golf. So we're going to take our first break here. When we continue, why not start with Uno, world number 1, Nelly Korda. She will be our first guest. It's nice to have you with us. It's Monday morning. It's 7 minutes past the hour. And this is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. We will continue with you right after this. Welcome back in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. Great to have you with us on this Monday morning. Our maiden voyage, not only right here on Golf Channel, but also on Sirius XM. And this segment is brought to you by Peter Millar. Very proud to have had a great relationship with one of the bellwether brands when it comes to how you dress, because it's where performance meets luxury. That is Peter Millar. And I mentioned our first guest. She's joining me now. She is world number 1, a 2-time major champion, the Player of the Year in 2024. Had one of the great historic seasons that we have seen. Forget the women's game, in the game of golf, and that is Nelly Korda. Nelly, it's Gary Williams. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, when we knew that this was going to happen, I said, you know what? There's only one person I want to be the first guest, and it is you, because you are somebody who is not only doing historic things, you're doing in a way that is attracting people to the game. If you look back, which I hope you've had time to do it, is there a moment that you think was the most rewarding moment for you in 2024?
I just think the year in general was super rewarding. There's so many lessons that were learned in that year when it came to, good golf. There was a mix of bad golf too. I became an auntie. Like, just the 2024 year in general, it was definitely a learning year. Also being put in maybe a little bit of a different spotlight as well. I just thought it was just a really fun year, a year that I learned a lot about myself, and then obviously can't forget about the good golf that was played as well.
You mentioned the spotlight, and look, a lot of people look at the lives of people who have public personas, and there's envy, there's admiration, but there's something that you sacrifice the more you achieve, and that is anonymity. How have you managed a life that has evolved to one that is very public?
Yeah, I think it's just mainly the people around you, the people that you surround yourself with. What I've learned in 2024 is that you just can't conform to what people want you to be. You have to be who you want to be, and at the end of the day, that's how you're going to thrive and be the best version of yourself. So having people around you that know who you are and that kind of take you away from that life, that recharge your batteries, was super important for me. And I have an amazing family. I have an amazing support system. I have an amazing team, and I'm so, so grateful for them.
You know, sometimes people make the choice to share a little bit, and that's what social media does. And so I know that, you know, you got away and you took a little vacation. During that time, when you're in an environment where, you know, it's a winter environment, and maybe you have a hat on and a big coat, did you experience any moments where you went, nobody knows who I am, and you know what, this is delightful?
For sure. I mean, the first couple of years on tour, whenever I didn't have my visor on or hat on, everyone was like, oh my gosh, you look so different with your hair down. Like, we didn't recognize you at all. So sometimes, you know, it's nice to not dress in golf clothes and to kind of be a ghost that no one recognizes you. And, you know, when you're going to a place where there's a lot of snow and you're wearing a lot of puffy jackets and a beanie, not many people recognize you. So that was a perfect moment for me to recharge my batteries and do something that I normally don't. You know, living in Florida, we don't see snow. So growing up, we used to always make a yearly trip out to Austria, and that was a little too far for me. So Utah was a perfect escape.
You know, as you look ahead, we've seen a lot change in the professional game. And one of the things is people really digging in on the data side of things. Have you changed your approach in terms of being a little bit more reliant on analytics than maybe you were 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Not at all. I think it actually makes me a little bit more technical. I have a TrackMan, I don't use it. I have a quad, I don't really use it. They just kind of sit pretty in my garage. I don't know, I've always been the type of person that's like, I want to envision my shot. I want to envision what I see. And obviously, you know, you have the standard greens hit, fairways hit, putts. Like, that's kind of what I look at, but it's very, like, much so the bare minimum. I don't take a deep dive in the analytics. I don't really take a deep dive into the numbers. I just don't want to lose my feel and how I envision the shots, because I feel like when I start to put in the numbers and I start to put in a little bit more of the technical feel, I lose my feel, and that's not how I was raised, and that's not how I started playing the game.
You know, Nelly, you mentioned about learning things about yourself. I want to take you back when you win the Chevron, and now you're in the middle of this amazing heater, and there is momentum that is not only momentum I'm sure you feel, but the sport is feeling. What did you learn about yourself when you saw the level of attention and traction that you and the sport were gaining by your accomplishment?
I mean, obviously, it was such an amazing feeling. Seeing, mainly, I love seeing all the little kids come out and tell me that, you know, I've inspired them to pick up the game of golf, or not even just kids, but people in general, that they love the game of golf because they've watched the women on tour. It's such a rewarding feeling, but you know, you do get caught up in that kind of light a little bit, and it's really important to recharge those batteries. You know, after Chevron, I was just so mentally exhausted. I mean, it was something that, you know, those under pressure moments of being in contention, they take so much out of you, that, you know, it was really important for me to recharge. And I'm not going to lie and say that I knew what I was doing. I mean, in the middle of the year where I had, let's say, US Open, KPMG, and just like a couple of other regular events, I was really struggling. I didn't have much energy. I just really, my mind kind of wasn't connecting to my body. And I think I was just kind of a little too tired. And obviously, kind of the negative energy and not playing great kind of wore on me a little, but that was a great learning opportunity for me, and made me realize the people around me, those are the most important people, and I'm so grateful and I'm so lucky for those people, and it was a great way to lean on others too.
About 18 months ago, you and your sister were kind enough to join me on the Five Clubs podcast. And the thing that I love the most about that is that you were not in the same place, but you had this playful byplay, which was reflective of siblings. But you didn't have her with you on a week in, week out basis with you in 2024. How was that different? How was it harder? And how did it benefit you with her going through a growing family and transitioning to different things in her life? What was that like?
Yeah, so in 2023 is actually where I felt the biggest adjustment because that's when she got injured, I think in like May time. So for me, like not having her out there, not having a dinner buddy, an automatic dinner buddy, I was definitely, I felt really lucky from the years prior that I had her, and it was a huge adjustment for me in 2023 because I am a little bit of a shy person, so I don't necessarily make the easiest of friends, and having Jess out there was always such a safe buffer for me to, have someone with me and not feel lonely. So definitely a big adjustment in 2023. And then 2024, Grayson was born in beginning of February. And I had my parents come out a couple more times. Jess actually came out a few times as well. So definitely more grateful for when they do come out. Soak it up a little bit more because you take it for granted a little.
The sport not only of women's golf, but women's sports in general, there's an ascendancy, as you know, that's going on. You shared some time this fall with Caitlin Clark, who's been on a meteoric rise in terms of what she's done for basketball. Forget just women's basketball. Coco Gauff, Simone Biles. How can you in the collective keep this momentum going in the direction that it's going?
Yeah, I mean, what they've done for their sports has been amazing. Getting to share some time with Caitlin at the end of the year in 24 was really cool. She's such a down-to-earth person, so it was really fun to play 9 holes with her. But, at the end of the day, it's all about performance. If we're performing and we're dedicating that time to our sport training and everything, that's what's going to bring more eyeballs to the game. And I think that's the only way to keep people interested if those top players are performing well.
Do you audibilize or write down objectives, goals, ambitions for a year ahead?
I did, and honestly, with every year I get injured, and every year it's my goal not to get injured and to play a full season. And for me, it's just to stay healthy and happy and, to go out and do what I love. I mean, that's the main goal. And if I check all those off, I mean, I think that there's a good chance I'm going to be playing well.
All right, let us get you out of here with 5 to go. 5 quick questions for Nelly Korda. The first and last autograph that you asked for yourself?
I think the first autograph was Arnold Palmer at Bay Hill. That's a pretty good one.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and then I don't know about the last. I mean, I did ask Tiger for a photo the first year I played PNC, but I don't remember the last autograph.
I think the photo, in some ways, specifically the selfie, has kind of replaced the autograph. Like, people don't, I mean, kids still do, but it's mostly, hey, can you cozy up and get a selfie? So we'll count that one. All right, give your top, all right, give your top binge-worthy series or show that you endorse for people to indulge in to start 2025.
Well, I'm a big Friends person, so I love the show Friends. I mean, it's on every night on Nickelodeon, so that's a must for me. So I would say, yeah, Friends.
Okay, if your family, which is one of the great sporting families and achievement families that I've ever seen, got together and everybody was in their physical prime and we took away clubs and rackets and we constructed a series of events, who would be the Vegas favorite?
I think hands down my brother. He's definitely the most talented for me. Just his hand-eye coordination is unbelievable, and he makes everything look so smooth and easy. It's kind of aggravating, but he's definitely, I think, the most talented out of all of us.
Okay, if you could either act in big budget movies or be either the lead voice in a great band, what would you do?
I think my voice is awful, but I think I love music so much. Definitely would be a singer, not an
Okay, last
actress.
thing. You have to get in the car because you got stuff to do this morning. What is the most convenient and tasty item that you can eat while driving?
So I've had a lot of meals on the go in the car, like probably everything you imagine. Um, 2024, I would always have an almond croissant, but I really don't recommend that unless you have a vacuum in the car. And I would say a burger is the easiest, or some type of sandwich that you can hold.
Very good choices. Nelly, I'm very appreciative. You were the #1 target when we knew this show was going to be launched. Thank you for starting our year. Look forward to seeing you very soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's only downhill from here, so.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I get Lydia, I'm going down in the world rankings.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, there is Nelly Korda, world #1, coming off one of the great historic years that we've seen, and truly one of the most important figures, forget the professional game, in the game of golf. When we continue, I mentioned Hideki and the 257. The numbers produced over the weekend at the Sentry were kind of mind-blowing. We'll get to that. Plus, the biggest storylines in 2025. We will hit on that as well. It's nice to have you with us. It's 24 minutes past the hour. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and simulcast on the PGA Tour Radio Network. We're back right after this. We are back. It is 28 minutes past the hour. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. I am Gary Williams. It's great to have you with us. And of course, you can follow us on all the social handles. You will see those addresses and places you can find us periodically during the program on screen, from Twitter X to Instagram to Facebook to Blue Sky, whatever that might be. We appreciate you getting connected with us and all the things that we're doing. We will certainly keep you updated. And as I mentioned, we can only do this without the great support of people who are by our side, and that includes another company right down the road. It is the cradle of American golf, and that, of course, is Pinehurst Resort. And you consider what they just achieved this past year by having another U.S. Open, but the first as a designated anchor site. They have cottages coming to Pinehurst #8, the first on-course experience for you to be able to stay and play right there on course #8. We are exceedingly proud to have Pinehurst and that great brand and that great organization as a partner with us. With respect to what happened over the weekend, when you start looking at what Hideki Matsuyama specifically did at the Sentry on the plantation course at Kapalua, you build graphics, and one of the things you do when you build a graphic is go just put any numbers in it, and then when we actually have the event, we'll put the real numbers in it. What we're getting ready to show you is not a mock-up of our full screen graphic of a PGA Tour leaderboard. It's the actual leaderboard at the Sentry. And 35 under. That's right. Hideki Matsuyama shot Kevin Durant. I thought that'd be a bigger headline. 35 under par. Colin Morikawa shot 32 under par, and I know that people are not inclined to want to hear people cursing or foul language. I thought what he said immediately afterwards was perfect. Like, what did I just witness? Hideki Matsuyama shot 65, 65, 62, 65, and I mentioned the total of 257. 257, I thought to myself last night, that sounds like a wonky area code somewhere in the outskirts of somewhere. It's actually going to be. It's going to be an auxiliary area code in the greater Vancouver area starting in May. Hideki, you need to get a phone with the area code 257. And here's the thing about Hideki Matsuyama, a couple things. One, he was the one who, when they created Augusta National, along with other global golf federations created the Asia Pacific Amateur Championship, he legitimized it right away, because not only was he the low amateur among the masters after winning it, he then immediately becomes one of the elite professionals in the game. And if you consider where he's won and how he's won, these are wins are to me, they're all immensely valuable. But when you start rolling down the list of places where he's won, he won 2 World Golf Championships before that series went away. He's won at Memorial. He won the Sony Open, where they are this week at Wailea. He's won the Waste Management on 2 separate occasions. Obviously, having won the Masters and being the first Japanese-born player to win at Augusta National was massive. He won the FedEx Cup event last year in Memphis, the first playoff event. He won at Riviera last year, and now he has added the Sentry, which, even though it is a condensed, smaller field, we never added any addendum to that when the likes of Tiger Woods was winning those events. And Tiger won a ton of shorter field events. It could have been 50 or 500, and Tiger would have won all of those. And it could have been a 500-man field on the Plantation course for Hideki Matsuyama, and he would have won. What's interesting is that he goes on these runs. His flow state is remarkable. And the other thing is that he has a solid record in major championships, with the exception of the Open Championship. He has 2 top 5s in the Masters, including that win. He is top 5 in multiple U.S. Opens, same with the PGA. But he, for whatever reason, I think part of it is he's not, so to speak, from here, and he's a bashful guy by nature, so he's not seeking attention. But that's the caveat. He gets a massive amount of attention. The phalanx of media from his home nation of Japan that follows every waking moment of his, and yet he never succumbs to it. He never seems to be overcome by it. He never seems exhausted or fatigued. And yes, he's had bouts with either injury or a balky putter, but he is one thing that is absolutely a certainty, and it wasn't because he won last night, and it wasn't because he's won a couple times over the last couple of years. He's a lead pipe mortal lock to be a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. And he is in his physical prime, because he's going to be 33 at the latter part of February. Is he capable of challenging world number 1 Scottie Scheffler? I don't think so, but look, there's an epidemic of recency bias, and I heard last night, can he? I don't think he can, but that doesn't even matter today. What matters is that he shot 35 under par, and it also adds to what I think will continue to be a narrative that we're going to talk about a great deal, and that is, where is this game going in terms of its overall appeal? Because when you have an absence of wind and you have a softer golf course, it has no chance against these players. Sungjae Im shot 19 under par on the weekend, 19 under. That wins a lot of events on the PGA Tour, and he finished 6 shots back. And let me finish with this with respect to Collin Morikawa. It's kind of weird. He won those 2 majors, and he was piling up wins in the sense that he was winning on an annual basis, and it was like you could count on it. What is very dangerous is to be presumptuous about achievement at the highest level. He hasn't won a golf tournament since the fall of 2023, and so you consider that, and that was at the Zozo, and it was an excellent field, and before that, it was the Open Championship in July of 2021. He's so close to winning again. And the other part of it is that he's getting chippy about it in the best way. The way that he is not being down about it, these close calls, of which I believe he has 7 top 4 finishes in his last 16 starts. And if you look at his major championship performance last year, he was right there, starting the second 9 at Augusta National last April. He rinsed it on 12, he finished 3rd. But his performance at the PGA, he had good finishes at the U.S. Open and at the Open Championship, where he has won. He will represent the United States at the Ryder Cup, and I would find it hard to believe that he's not going to win soon enough again for the 7th time. And so for Collin Morikawa, that's why don't just pass over guys who win. Whatever the field is and whatever the result might be and however it is achieved, winning is the most refined skill all of these players are searching for. And it's not that he's lost it. He has just been mildly outclassed by players doing ridiculous things like Hideki Matsuyama did over the 4 days on the plantation course at the Sentry. All right, when we continue here, it is 36 minutes past the hour on day one of 5 Clubs on Golf Channel 2025. The big picture stories, the things that will hold our attention and drive the narrative in the game of golf going into this year. We talk about that and more. Nice to have you with us here on Golf Channel and simulcasting on the PGA Tour Radio Network on Sirius XM. We're back right after this. Welcome back in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. It's 40 minutes past the hour. I'm Gary Williams. Nice to have you with us on day one of our program here. And this segment is brought to you by Golf Pride. They have been with us since the very beginning. The most trusted brand for the best players. You can count on Golf Pride. And you talk about the best players, you know, one of the things that we're going to do, and like I said, the foundational piece of this program is certainly going to be professional golf. And even though he wasn't able to participate at the Sentry this past weekend, Scottie Scheffler is the headliner in the men's game. We already spoke to Nelly Korda, the #1 player in the world on the women's side. It was great to see simultaneously these two players doing what they were doing. If you go back to the spring, when they were both on these collective heaters, it's like, who's not going to win first? And if you look at the end of the year, what Scottie Scheffler did, and that's why, look, if you make us part of your rotation, and that is one other thing that I'm going to say to you with respect to this program, it's interesting, and it was kind of weird and eerie this morning as I was driving in here. My career started less than a mile from here, doing local radio in Charlotte, a studio that's just down the road here. And driving in here this morning, it felt like old times. And so one of the things that I'm going to say to you is just make us part of your rotation. I don't care if we're your 5th starter and that you occasionally go, you know what, he's a junk baller, but I'll let him go to the hill today for 15 minutes. Just make us part of the rotation. And if you do, what you're going to hear me say is, not that Scottie Scheffler is Tiger, nobody is, but it's okay to say that he is doing Tiger-like things because he is, and because he has been. Because if you go back to the latter part of 2021 when he represented the United States on the Ryder Cup team at Whistling Straits, he hadn't won yet on the PGA Tour, and a lot of people said, really? You're putting him on the team? He didn't even have a win. And he had a very good week, punctuated by him beating Jon Rahm, who was the man of the match for the European side in Sunday singles. And what did he do from there? Well, if you start looking at his years, and again, this is mind-blowing stuff. Starting in 2022, 25 starts, 4 wins, 4 seconds, 11 top 10s. He had 18 top 25s. Of course, he won the Masters. He won the match play, won API. 2023, the 2 wins, and it was weird because he and Jon Rahm were doing insane stuff as we got past the Masters, and then it dried up for both of them. 2 wins, 2 seconds, 17 top 10s, 21 top 25s. And then this past year that just concluded, 19 starts, 7 wins, 2 seconds, 16 top 10s, and 17 top 25s. And that doesn't include the gold medal that he won in Paris. 67 starts, 13 wins, 8 seconds, 44 top 10s of those 67 starts. See, that's what Tiger did. And Tiger kept doing it and kept doing it. And that's why his 10 5-win seasons seem unimaginable. But here's the thing about historic windows, whether you want to start with Jones from as far as the major championships from 1923 to 1930, or Hogan from 46 to 53, or Palmer from 58 to 64. And then obviously you had some real aliens like Jack from 1962 to 1986, and then Tiger doubled his major championship breadth by winning the Masters in 2019. We're in the middle of his historic window. So just enjoy it. And so if you hear me and others who are joining me on this program on a regular basis talk about him doing Tiger-like stuff statistically and in terms of achievement, it's because he is. I'm not saying he's going to do it for 10 years, but he's been doing it for 3. That's not a trend. That's his reality. And the last thing about him that I will say, which I think is a space in sports which is the most elusive space. And it's not that you win every game, and it's not that you win every golf tournament. When you feel inevitable, Michael Jordan felt inevitable. Patrick Mahomes right now, he feels inevitable. Tiger was the most inevitable of them all. There is a sense of inevitability because here's what Scottie Scheffler does when he starts golf tournaments. He has the lowest scoring average, or at least he did this past season, on day one. What do you think that does to his competition heading into the weekend? It's suffocating. It encroaches upon their sensibilities. And it's not like he goes in the other direction on the weekend. And let me just add one other storyline, because it's been a storyline now for 10 years, and that is Rory McIlroy. Consider the major championship rota this year. And I'm going to call it Rory's rota. Augusta National is his white whale. He's not only trying to win that for the first time. If he does win it, it means he completes their career Grand Slam, which is the great Rubicon that we currently have in the game of golf. And he's also now in a space that nobody has ever been in. And that is, he is beyond 10 years since his last major championship win. And if you look historically at players who have won 4 and then eventually a 5th and beyond 5th major, on average, it took those players, the likes of Jack and Tiger and Arnold and Hogan, on average 2.5 years to go from 4 to 5. He's now beyond 10 years. You think that's not psychologically challenging? But the road of this year, beyond Augusta National, and the challenge is psychologically that certainly is going to impart upon him. He comes here. That's not to this studio, even though we would certainly welcome him. We would probably ID him, but we would welcome him in the month of May. This is his happiest haunt, because about 2.5 miles down the road is Quail Hollow, where he's won 4 times, and the PGA is here once again. And oh, beyond that, no, he missed the cut in 2016 at the U.S. Open at Oakmont. But here's the thing about the U.S. Open. He missed the cut in 16, 17, and 18, even though he had won the championship back in 2011. Since missing that cut, the last one he missed, his worst finish is a tie for 9th at the U.S. Open. He has turned into a guy who can knuckle down and dig in and know the value of par, that it's not just clean air and shooting 26 under. And yes, what happened to him down the road at Pinehurst last year was one of the great guttings that we have seen historically in major championship golf, but he was second at the U.S. Open in LA, second at Pinehurst. There's no reason to believe that he can't win at Oakmont. And oh, by the way, Portrush and home for the Open Championship. 2 of the big storylines in golf. We take a break now. It's 47 minutes past the hour. My observations from things I witnessed over the weekend at Sentry as we continue with you. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. We're back right after this. Back in, it is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, 51 minutes past the hour. Nice to have you with us here on this Monday. You know, it used to be that you could count on certain things, and one thing we can count on is our presenting sponsor, and that is Sentry Insurance. They not obviously were only the title sponsor of the event over the weekend. They are a proud partner of the United States Golf Association. And I already made a mistake today, because one thing I'm going to do is ask the index of everybody who's on this program. I did not ask Nelly Korda what her handicap index is, because I couldn't find it. But they are responsible for the GIN system and the handicap system, partnering with the USGA. They are right by you. That is Sentry Insurance. The other thing about the new year is that it used to be, with the exception of a finite number of players who got to play in, quote, silly season events, you didn't see players for like months. They'd go away, and then they'd come back, and they would have new equipment deals, they would have new apparel deals. They had probably maybe transformed themselves to some degree physically. Now, because the fall is inundated with events and the silly season doesn't seem to end, it's not like players go away and you come back and it's like seeing a whole new person. But I did have some observations over the weekend from some players that maybe I hadn't seen in a little bit. Let me start with Will Zalatoris. One, it's great to see him play and play well, because if he can be injury-free, And I think that that's one thing as kind of an addendum to Tiger. We take for granted all of the back surgeries he's had. And here's Will Zalatoris, who had a similar procedure coming back from that. It's going to take a little bit of time. But he used to optically, and these weekend observations, and I can't steal that. That is Stu Gotz's tag, and I'm a huge fan of Stu's. So it's not going to be called that. But I'm going to have observations every week of things that I saw. Will Zalatoris is no longer a human cattail. He used to be like 5'11", 111 pounds. Now he's like, I wouldn't call him beefy, but him topping 180, he looks different, and that's a good thing. Max Homa. Let me say this about Max. Sometimes when you make an apparel change, you're going, I don't know. He's nailed it. He's nailed it for two reasons. One, Lululemon is very sporty. Very spiffy. But the other thing is, it's a brand that his wife is very loyal to. Well played, Max Homa. And with respect to his equipment deal and him making a transition from Titleist to Cobra, those things 25 years ago used to wig me out. I remember when Payne Stewart made the switch to Top Flight, and I went, oh my gosh, what has he done? And anybody out there, and I'm not trying to date myself, remember Founders Club? That too, when Lee Jansen did that, I'm going, okay, where are we going? These things just don't matter as much anymore. Keegan Bradley. Keegan had, and I think he might have shaved over the weekend, he had a very full, healthy mustache going. I don't know if that's going to be something that he is going to rock throughout the year, but I'm begging and I'm pleading with him to have that on full display as the captain of the United States Ryder Cup team, because he will look like a taller Jim Leland. Now, I don't want him to be pumping heaters like the skipper used to do down in the dugout for various franchises. He looks like a combination of Jim Leland and Davey Johnson, or a middle reliever from the Milwaukee Brewers in 1987. Please have the mustache come September at Bethpage. Last thing is Justin Thomas. And Justin he's always presented himself with great style. He's gone away from these very traditional kicks to much more of like a performance style shoe. JT, please tell me that's not going to be every week. I count on your shoe game to rock it old school, like it's the 1970s or even the 1990s with Steve Elkington. Some of my mild and quick observations from the weekend. When we continue here, 5 minutes till the top of the hour. Some final thoughts, and we look ahead to Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. We're back right after this. Back in, it is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. This week, first full field event on the PGA Tour, the Sony Open, and we will certainly talk about that as the week progresses, primarily on Wednesday. And this is the beginning of the most intense year, I believe, for everybody who plays on the PGA Tour because of the shrinking of the workforce, going from 125 to 100, and the value of the Aeon Swing 5 and getting into Signature Series events. And that is something that we're going to talk about at great length as the year progresses. But tomorrow is also the debut of something that is new to golf. And you can go, I'm not that interested. I'm not telling you should be interested in TGL, but the best players in the world, with few exceptions, are going to be part of it. Scott Van Pelt, who is going to be the front-facing man as the main host of that, is going to be joining me tomorrow. And you can say, you know, what does that have to do? Well, look, we had no idea what good golf was going to mean to golf. But here's what they are. They're a huge, impactful brand. And by the way, they're going to have an event on Golf Channel around the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And the other person who's going to be joining me tomorrow is Jim Nantz. So between calling the last regular season weekend of the NFL and a playoff game Sunday in Orchard Park between the Bills and the Broncos, the voice of golf, Jim Nantz, will join me tomorrow. Van Pelt and Nantz on a Tuesday, and hopefully you as well. For all of us here on 5 Clubs, have a great Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.